Hey guys, welcome back. So today we're out at the range to talk about roller delayed firearms. Now there's probably more of them out there that were used in military service than you realize. At the end of World War II, the Germans were working on a roller delay system. During the war, the MG42, which is a roller locked belt-fed machine gun, was in common use. But by the end of the war, the stgw was being worked on, which was a roller delayed system. There are two different types of operation. Well, the people that were working on that program at the end of the war fled to Spain, and SETME developed the rifle that you see here, the Model C. And this would go on to be used by the Spanish military. So this is what we know as the G3. The Germans wanted the FAL, long story there. Ultimately, they wound up licensing this technology, their own technology, from Spain, which would become what we know as the G3 and the HK33 and the MP5 and all that other stuff. But there were some other rifles used during the Cold War that were roller delayed, and they're a little bit unique. So let's take a closer look at some of them in today's video, but we're going to start off today shooting this classic Mars import. SETME, does chamber 7.62x51. Beautiful old rifles. A lot of folks ask me, how can I get involved in the firearms business in that particular community? And one of the best ways to do that is to become a gunsmith. Every gunsmith I know is just overbooked with work. It's a very good living. And so if you would like to become a gunsmith, you need to go to a gunsmithing school or become an apprentice for an existing gunsmith. But Modern Gun School is an accredited college that also works with veterans in the GI Bill, where you can go and get a degree from accredited college in gunsmithing and then go out and start your own gunsmithing business, which I think is a really great option. Again, throughout my entire life, gunsmiths have always been able to earn a really good living, assuming they have a really strong work ethic. So please check out Modern Gun School. I do have a link in the video description below. So one of the rifles that would come out of the Cold War would replace the SETME Model C that we opened up the video with, and this is the SETME L. And this rifle chambers 5.56. We've done videos on this rifle in the past. And so this would be similar to what HK did with the HK33 or the HK93, although this is its own rifle. Although by looking at it, you would say it looks like a green painted HK33, but trust me when I say the internals on this, while very similar in concept, using two rollers and things like that, it's a completely different rifle. So this would have been developed independently of HK's work with the HK33, which the German military really didn't use as its primary infantry rifle. The Spaniards would move over to this. And this is an interesting rifle for sure. It had a number of different variations. This one has a British SUSAT sight on top of it. There's different versions of it, just iron sights, and you have different types of mounting options for optics on the original version. There's a sight tower back here, but it has the forward charging roller delay system. Now this one has been modified to work with Stenag magazines, but the original magazines were basically Stenag magazines that the Spaniards would use. Now these things weren't really known for quality. The welds on them could be a little bit shoddy, some of the parts would be a little bit out of spec, but they worked pretty much okay. The rifle that you see here was manufactured here in Indiana by Malcolmar, and they would do an amazing job taking those old kits, making sure that all the parts are in the right spec and making sure the receivers are right. So these typically run pretty darn good. And I don't even know if these things are still available. I dropped the magazine. Looks like I have a loose round in there. There we go. No more loose round. All right, the bolt hold is back here. It's a little bit weird. Pull the charging handle to the rear, release it, and now I think I only have 9 rounds. And that's one thing I really like about the roller delay systems. They're extremely soft shooting, the 308 and the 5.56. The 5.56 is just so milky smooth. It's a really nice system. So this is the Swiss K31. This rifle segues nicely into the next two rifles that I want to show you this afternoon. But the K31 is a bolt action rifle that chambers 7.5 Swiss. And this is a very popular rifle, extremely accurate. Collectors in the US absolutely love buying them and shooting them. But there's one feature about this particular bolt action rifle. It's a straight pull bolt that I wanted to show you because it would be carried over into the self-loading rifles I want to show you next that are roller delayed. And that's the charging handle, this beer keg charging handle. Now, I've heard it said that the Russians kept the fixed charging handle, reciprocating charging handle in the AK because it mimicked the bolt handle of their Mosin-Nagant rifles. I don't really see that, maybe, kind of, sort of, but there's a rotating motion there with the Mosin-Nagants that you would have with something like this, which is a straight pull. And you'll see when I operate the mechanism, there's no rotating of the bolt to get it to cycle. I just literally pull it straight back and push it straight forward. Watch this. So you have that straight pull action. And this would be carried over into the next two rifles I want to show you. These rifles are really cool. So this rifle we've talked about previously. This is the Swiss stg PE57, whatever you want to call it. Either stg57 or PE57. Some people will call it the AMT. But this rifle would have been adopted by the Swiss as the designation stg 57 implicates. It was developed in the 1950s, and this would carry on in Swiss military service for some time. But this isn't really the rifle I want to talk about today. This is the precursor to the rifle I want to show you today. We've done a video on this rifle, and so if you want to go back in the library and find out all the little bits and cool features about it, we do talk about it in another video. But in essence, this is one ugly duckling, but this is probably one of the most cherished and most respected battle rifles of the Cold War era. And this rifle is roller delayed. The bolt and carrier in this thing is absolutely massive. It looks like an MG42. The Swiss over-engineered this. If the Germans will over-engineer something, the Swiss will take it a step further, and they certainly did with this particular rifle. Now, the rifle, as I said, is a roller delay system, so it's not roller locked. The biggest difference being a roller locked weapon system like the MG42. The barrel moves rearward with the bolt and carrier to allow it to unlock, and then it moves rearward. With a roller delay, the barrel is fixed, and you're just using mechanical advantage to keep that breech closed long enough for the bullet to safely leave the barrel pressures to drop and the gun to cycle. So it's two distinctly different types of operation, this being roller delayed. But this rifle, it seems like coming out of World War II, the militaries of the world, the French especially, wanted their weapons to do a little bit of everything. So we have the ability for this to mount optics. This is an optics mounting system up here. The sights fold down on the rifle, and then there's a mounting divot back here and a plate up in front. It's a thing that will fit over the top that will give you magnified optics. There are aftermarket ones and military versions. This rear sight, as we've talked about in its original video, is basically a Swiss watch, way over-engineered, but it makes extensive use of stampings. The rifle has quick change. This is so Swiss. The Germans, like I said, overthink things. The Swiss will take it a step further. With the Germans, the rollers are start to wear, they would just replace the rollers in their G3 systems. Here, you will replace the actual cutouts in the trunnion where the rollers engage. So that's what these little ears are on both sides of the receiver. Really kind of interesting. But here's that, beer keg charging handle I was telling you about, and it works in the exact same way as it did on the bolt action rifle. It's just a little bit further forward, but you can see it's the exact same style charging handle. So yes, going from the bolt action to this would be very intuitive, although I think that's a relatively minor training issue. It's also interesting to note that the weapon has a loaded chamber indicator. So when a round is in the chamber, this pin right here will pop up, so you can just run your finger across the top of the receiver and you'll know if the weapon's loaded or not. Out here we have a ventilated handguard and a bipod that's integral to the system, but the bipod can be slid forward or it can be slid back into two different positions. One would be a DMR precision type position, which would have it out here. Back here would be more for a light machine gun roll, and so it would make it quicker to transition from target to target. And of course, out here on the end, we have obviously the folding sight that I've already shown you, but then we have machined into the barrel grenade launching facilities. So they wanted this weapon to do everything: light machine gun, infantry rifle, grenade launcher, everything. And has its little carrying handle, all sorts of cool stuff. But these are just absolutely beautiful rifles. This one, Chamber 75 Swiss, that uses an AK style rock and lock magazine. And we'll just fire off a few rounds for you guys here really quick. To find ammunition for this, this is PPU. I have to go online and buy it. And sometimes you get lucky and find it for a decent price, and other times not so much. Now the 7.5 Swiss is a big cartridge. It's a little bit bigger than 308, a little bit smaller, I guess, than 30-06 on the power spectrum, but it's a full-size battle rifle cartridge. But this thing is a pussycat to shoot. So you lock in that big old magazine, pull your charging handle to the rear, let it go. This is your selector lever. It's big and kind of clunky in an awkward position. Definitely requires your non-shooting hand to select the position. You're not going to be able to do that over here with your firing hand, which is a bit awkward. Not sure what the thinking was on that, but this thing is very, very smooth. Does not lock open on the last shot fired. So the previous rifle, the PE57 or the stgw, that is the predecessor to this 510, AMT 510-4. This one chambers 308 or 7.62 by 51 NATO, and this rifle would be made in a couple of different versions. This would be the military version, and it's pretty easy to tell the civilian from the military versions that were sold in the export market. The easiest way is first look at the profile of the barrel. You'll notice it has the grenade rings cut into it and a muzzle device machined into the barrel. That's going to be a military feature. The civilian version is just going to have a straight cut barrel and have a muzzle device screwed onto the end. Another feature of the military rifles would be the bipod that folds across the top here, across the ventilated handguard, and then it has this short wood piece here. Civilian versions, many times, would leave out the bipod and have another wood piece that would set on the top here to give you more protection from heat, and it had a little band around it. So that'd be the easiest ways to tell the military style from the commercial style. Other than that, they're pretty much the same thing. Now, this rifle is lighter and a bit smaller than the PE57, which would make sense. The 308 cartridge is a little bit smaller. It does use its own magazine. You'll notice if you back here, we've gotten rid of the polymer stock, gone to wood. We'll take it apart here momentarily. They've gone to an FAL style rear sight, which is far less complex than what we had seen on the Swiss version. And this would also be designed to work with the scope mount. So it has a detent in the front like an AR-180, and then a little shelf here. It would clip on, a little spring detent would go in there, and that's how you would get an optic to mount to the top of this. Other than that, you can select your range by sliding the rear sight, and then the front sight up here is adjustable for elevation and windage. So you will zero the gun with the front sight and then select the range with the rear sight. Just like its big brother in 7.5 Swiss, this one has a stamped sheet metal receiver. It has the winter trigger guard or grenade launching trigger that would be carried over from the Swiss version. And again, this is nice for winter environments when you have like a big gloved hand, or if you want to fire grenades, people will use it for that as well, to keep your finger out of the trigger guard, argument being that you can break your finger, but I've never found rifle grenades kick all that much. But anyway, I digress. It maintains the same beer keg style charging system, does not lock open on the last shot fired. It does have its own proprietary magazines. Now, Honey Creek Manufacturing right here in Indiana, they make receivers for these types of rifles, so if you want to build a kit, you can do that. But they also are working on different magazines. These magazines can be as much as $1,000 if you can find original AMT 510-4 magazine. So they've taken 7.5 Swiss mags, modified them to accept 7.62, and also BM59 mags they've modified. So you have other options out there if you just want to shoot your gun and put your original, very valuable original magazine away. This maintains the same functionality I was talking to you about being able to change out the rollers, you know, inside the receiver here. And it's just a very, very pleasant rifle to shoot. The magazine is a rock and lock affair. And what's really kind of cool about it, these things had to be super expensive. So the feed lips are partially integrated into the magazine. So if I take some ammunition, I want to thank our friends at Federal for supplying the ammunition free of charge to the channel. We've been using their ammunition since I was a kid. Great stuff. And you can see how the round sits in there. and then it acts as a feed ramp, which is really kind of cool. All right, so we'll put a few rounds in here. Do a little shooting with it, and we'll take it apart. And that's what's really cool about this thing. It's just how massive everything is, although this version of it is so much lighter feeling and handier feeling than the Swiss version in 7.5 Swiss. This 308 version is much nicer. Charge it just like that. And what's really cool is the ejection port looks super tiny, and we'll talk about that when we field strip it. But this is a really unique system of ejection. So watch this thing as it cycles. So smooth. It's smoother than the G3. I would say it's as smooth in a properly tuned FAL. It's just a really, really smooth shooting rifle. Ugly as sin. I mean, yes, I'll be the first to admit, but it's just function over form, and this thing functions amazingly well. They're known to work well in Arctic climates. They're known to be reliable. The roller delay system is robust. You'll see that when we take it apart. So let's do that next. Let's take a look at the internals of this thing. It is built like a tank. So if you're familiar with the HK91 or the HK93 or MP5, you're going to find this next part to be pretty interesting. So let's take the gun apart. First of all, I want to make sure the weapon is empty, so I'm going to go ahead and check that chamber. The magazine is out. Now, I did mention that the ejection port is very small on this, and that's because the ejection on this is different than from what most rifles that you're used to out there, how it operates. So when the case is pulled out, the ejector kicks the rear of the case out first, and then it comes out backwards. So you're used to the case being kicked out from the rim and the nose coming out first and then flipping out. This is the opposite. The rear end comes out first. And when we take it apart, you'll see how that works. All right, so first we've made sure that the weapon is empty. The bolt is forward. There's a lever back here, and all you have to do is just pinch this lever and rotate the rear, and it'll just pop right off. And there's your recoil spring and your buttstock. Pull your charging handle to the rear, just lift it up and off. It comes off very easily. And then this is your bolt and carrier. And look at the size of this thing. So here are your rollers. Wipe this thing off because it's filthy. So look at the size of your bolt head. So very similar to the HK, right? Because you have the two rollers on either side that pop out into the recess. And this is your ejector. And so it rides on a track inside the receiver, and as the bolt comes to the rear, it pushes this little lever like this, and that's what's pushing the rear of the case out. So the case is sitting in there like that, and this lever pushes the rear of it out. So that's why it's coming out of the ejection port backwards, and that's how that small ejection port clears a live cartridge, which is actually bigger. Pretty darn cool, huh? The Germans, I will say, made things a little smaller. But overall, the mass of the bolt and carrier combined, when compared to a G3, probably isn't too much different. But that's all you really need to do. You can take the pin out, take the trigger mechanism off, it just swings down, but there's really no point into doing that. Put it back together again, take your bolt, push it forward. You have to get this ejector into its track, so you kind of push it forward with your thumb, get it to set inside there, like that. Push it forward until there we go. You see that? Now you can put your charging handle in, put your bolt in, recoil spring and buttstock just sets on like this. Get in there, you little fart. And boom, that's it. So very, very simple to take apart in the field, large, big parts, and very easy to use. I don't know if I mentioned that this one has a loaded chamber indicator on it as well. But yeah, I really like the 510-4. It's a very practical feeling rifle. The only thing that I don't like about it, the selector lever is goofy, and it is an ugly duckling. But I can forgive ugliness when it shoots as nicely as this rifle shoots. I should probably also point out that these rifles do have fluted chambers. And if you go back to my earlier PE57 video, I go into great detail about the chamber design in these particular rifles. Now, what's interesting is the roller delay story isn't finished yet. Now, this rifle is no longer in production, and it's not being used by any major militaries anywhere in the world right now, but the roller delay system persists. We still have companies out there like Zenith Firearms right here in the United States that are making new roller delay systems, have Matador Arms. The Streebog has a roller delay system in it. The Kuna has a roller delay system in it. The roller delay system is making a comeback, and we're seeing it more and more in PCCs, but it really makes for a nice shooting rifle as well. So if you have an opportunity to go out there and shoot a roller delayed system and you never have, please do check it out. They're amazing rifles. PTR is out there making rifles for $1,200 range or so. All right, guys, if you have any questions about anything you've seen in today's video, you can ask those questions down below. Do try to stick around for the first couple of days after we post a new video to see what you guys have to say. Many times you guys give us ideas for future videos. So please, again, comment down below. If you'd like to support us directly here at the Military Arms channel, the best way to do that is to become part of our Patreon family. There's a link in the video description below. Thank you for 18 years of support. Swing by, check out Copper Custom. We will talk to you guys soon.